Welcome back, everybody. We're diving into something I know a lot of you are really interested in all this research on the subconscious mind, especially focusing on Carl Jung's ideas. We're going to be looking at some excerpts that define the subconscious, how it kind of expresses itself, and then get into some of Jung's theories on things like symbolism and personality formation.
Yeah, it's going to be a really interesting journey into basically the hidden workings of your mind and how it shapes who you are. Like, ever wonder why you have those recurring dreams? Or those weird slips of the tongue? Well, by the end of it, you're going to understand yourself in a whole new way.
Let's start with the basics. Had a really clear definition of the subconscious. It's basically all those mental processes happening, kind of under the surface, outside of our awareness.
Right. And what's so fascinating is how much influence this hidden part of us actually has, Like, it really drives our emotions, behaviors, even our thoughts. It's like an undercurrent that's shaping everything, our decisions and reactions without us realizing it.
One of the studies you sent over, the one where people had those delayed reactions during that word association test. And the researchers were saying it was because of these hidden emotional connections, things that participants weren't consciously aware of. So it's like our subconscious is always processing information, shaping our experience, even when we think we're totally in control.
Exactly. And that leads us to the question of how this mysterious subconscious actually communicates, right? If we're not directly aware of it, how does it make itself known?
Well, your research pointed to some interesting expressions of the subconscious. It's almost like learning a new language, the language of dreams, fantasies, even those little slips of the tongue we make.
Oh, yeah, speaking of slips of the tongue. Or, as some might call them, Freudian slips. Your research had a great example. You know that man who kept accidentally calling his wife by his ex-girlfriend's name? Clearly a subconscious message trying to break through.
Yeah.
But these slips, they're more than just funny anecdotes. They could actually offer some real insight into our hidden desires or conflicts.
I think we've all had those embarrassing slip-ups.
That's right. Oh, absolutely.
But digging a little deeper, your sources really emphasize that these expressions, they aren't random. They often carry symbolic meaning, and that's where Carl Jung's ideas become really important.
Right. Jung was all about interpreting the symbolic language of the subconscious. He believed that dreams, fantasies, even symptoms, they're all messages from our subconscious, trying to guide us towards a more complete understanding of ourselves.
One of the examples you sent was about a woman who kept having this dream about being trapped in a tiny room. Jung would say that the dream isn't just a random image. It's actually a symbolic representation of how she feels in her waking life, maybe stifled or restricted in some way.
Exactly, like her subconscious is trying to communicate a feeling of being stuck. And by paying attention to that symbol, she can start to explore what parts of her life might be causing that feeling.
You also sent an example about a man who would frequently fantasize about being a hero. And from Jung's perspective, that fantasy could reflect a subconscious desire for, recognition and achievement. Perhaps even hinting at untapped potential or a yearning for a greater purpose.
Yeah, these examples really highlight how powerful symbolism can be. It's like a secret code that, once understood, can unlock a deeper level of self-awareness.
So thinking about your own experiences, have you ever had a recurring dream that felt particularly symbolic? Or maybe a fantasy that keeps popping up? What could your subconscious be trying to tell you? This is where things start to get really interesting, because next we're going to explore Jung's ideas about fantasies in more depth.
Yeah, and this is where we get into some areas where the research he sent is, a little bit less explicit. But using Jung's broader theories as a framework, we did start to ask some, I think, pretty thought-provoking questions and make some pretty intriguing connections. Jung, he didn't see fantasies as just those daydreams or escapes from reality. He thought they could actually offer some really valuable insights into our psyche and, maybe even revealing those hidden desires and potential paths we might take in life.
Oh, so instead of just dismissing them as silly or unimportant, we should be paying attention to those fantasies.
Exactly. Remember that example of the man who kept fantasizing about being a hero? It's totally possible that fantasy is, a way for his subconscious to explore a desire for recognition and achievement. Maybe even like nudging him toward the path where, those qualities can shine.
That reminds me of another one of Jung's ideas. The concept of the subconscious, kind of compensating for things we lack in our conscious lives. Could fantasies be a way of us mentally, trying on different versions of ourselves, exploring paths we might not even be consciously aware of?
It's a really fascinating idea. It's like our subconscious is saying, hey, what if you explored this side of yourself? What if you stepped into this role or pursued this passion, like a mental dress rehearsal for different possibilities?
Oh, I love that idea. Our subconscious is giving us a little nudge, encouraging us to explore that hidden potential. I'm really curious about my own fantasy. What about you? What are some recurring themes or scenarios that pop up in your imagination? Do they reveal any hidden desires or untapped potential?
That's a great question. It's definitely worth thinking about. And while we're talking about the subconscious shaping our lives, let's look at one of Jung's most influential concepts, the idea of complexes.
Complexes, okay. I remember that from some of the research, but I could definitely use a refresher. How did Jung define complexes, and how do they relate to the subconscious?
Okay, so think of complexes as these like bundles of emotionally charged thoughts, memories, and experiences often rooted in our past. And they reside in our subconscious and may kind of influence how we see the world, how we react to situations, and ultimately shape our personalities.
So, for example, if someone had like a really critical parent growing up, they might develop a complex around, fear of failure or a constant need for approval. And then that complex could manifest in different ways throughout their life. Maybe they're always striving to be the best, or they, have trouble accepting any criticism.
Yeah, that's a great example. Complexes can be so powerful. They're like hidden lenses that color our perception and shape our behaviors in ways we might not even realize.
This is starting to make a lot of sense. But it's not just our personal experiences that form these complexes, right? Jung also talked about something called archetypes, these like universal inherited patterns of thought and behavior. How do archetypes fit into all of this?
Oh, archetypes, right. They're like blueprints for human experience, common to all cultures and times. They exist in what Jung called the collective unconscious, a deep well of shared human experiences and instincts that we all inherit. Like some examples of archetypes are, the mother, the hero, the shadow, and the wise old man. And these archetypes influence our personalities and the way we interact with the world.
So it's like we're all working with this combination of personal complexes shaped by your individual experiences, right? And then these universal archetypes that represent like fundamental human patterns. It's a fascinating interplay. It really is reading this unique tapestry of each individual personality, right? Exactly.
And as we kind of start to wrap up this part of our deep dive, I want to encourage you to think about those recurring patterns in your own life. Could they be influenced by subconscious complexes or those ancient archetypes working behind the scenes? It's a question worth pondering as we move into our final section where we explore how understanding your subconscious can actually lead to, a more fulfilling life.
Okay, so we've explored this subconscious, its expressions, how it shapes our personality. But what does it all actually mean for us? Like, how can we actually use this knowledge to, maybe improve our lives?
Right, that's the big question, right? It's one thing to just kind of understand these concepts in our heads, but the real power comes from actually, applying them to live more fulfilling lives.
So it's like, okay, my subconscious is talking to me through these dreams and these slips of the tongue, but what am I actually supposed to do with that?
Well, the first step is really just about cultivating awareness. So pay attention to those, little cues your subconscious is sending you. Keep a dream journal. Notice recurring themes, symbols, emotions that keep popping up. And don't dismiss those slips of the tongue. They might reveal some underlying thoughts and feelings.
So it's about becoming like a detective of our own mind.
Exactly. And remember what Jung said about symbolic interpretation. So like when you encounter a symbol in a dream, ask yourself, what does this represent to me? What personal associations or cultural meanings does it hold?
That makes sense, but it also sounds a little tricky. There's no universal dream dictionary, right? A snake could mean something completely different to me than it does to you.
Oh, absolutely. That's why self-reflection is so important. There's no one-size-fits-all answer. It's all about exploring your own unique symbolic language.
It's like this lifelong treasure hunt, constantly searching for these hidden gems of meaning within ourselves.
I like that. That's a beautiful way to put it. And remember, understanding your subconscious, it's not about achieving this perfect control over it. It's more about accepting, complexities within, embracing both the light and shadow.
This has been a really fascinating journey, I have to say. We've learned that the subconscious is this powerful force influencing our thoughts and our feelings and our actions, and it communicates through this symbolic language, expressed in dreams, fantasies, even these seemingly random behaviors.
Yeah, and by learning to decipher those messages, we can actually gain a deeper understanding of ourselves, uncover hidden potential, and ultimately live more authentically.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, here's a final, thought-provoking question for you to consider. Now that you've kind of had a glimpse into the power of your subconscious, what steps will you take to, explore it further? What hidden messages might you uncover? What new insights might you gain about yourself?
Yeah, how might this newfound awareness guide you towards a more fulfilling life? It's an exciting journey, and the exploration starts with them.
Keep those dream journals handy and pay attention to those slips. You never know what your subconscious might be trying to tell you. Until next time, happy diving.